It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of November 15th, 1996. We got 4 movies to look at today, some pretty big ones, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. And we'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is Michael Jordan and Bugs Bunny in Space Jam.
In the deepest reaches of space, a sinister force prepares an invasion. And all that stands between the world and disaster
you were expecting maybe the Easter Bunny?
is a rabbit, a duck, a dog, and a bull. Not that bull.
Smile, okay?
This bull.
What kind of camera is that?
What's going on here?
I thought you'd never ask.
Don't move a muscle.
You see, these aliens come from outer space. They want to make us slaves, so we challenge them to a basketball game.
You heard of the Dream Team? Well, we're the Mean Team.
What I'm trying to say is,
We need your help!
Perhaps I could be of some assistance.
On November 15th, get ready to run.
The Monstars stole the talent from the NBA players.
Get ready to slam.
5 NBA players all suffering from the same mysterious ailment.
Get ready to jam.
But what if we win?
Give me Warner Brothers
How about we go out and kick some alien butt, huh?
invites you
Ready?
Shall we?
to enter a world beyond any you've ever imagined.
Hey, what the...
Nice bud.
Michael Jordan, Bugs Bunny, and the best of the NBA.
Doc,
yes.
you go to the hole and dominate. We on defense.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa, I don't play defense.
Space Jam, an Ivan Reitman comedy of epic proportions.
I love basketball. Try your best in everything you do.
Only in theaters November 15th. Directed by Joe Pytka.
So Space Jam is one of those movies that kind of holds a very special place in my heart, mostly because it was the first movie that I was really excited to see in theaters. This came out when I was 7 years old, and the first time I ever knew about it, I was at a Scholastic book fair. You know how they used to have the book fairs that is once every year. They'd have something in the library or something in the cafeteria where you could see, where Scholastic would come in, bring out all these books, and you get to choose whatever you want. There was also some CD-ROM games too. I don't know if they still do that now in schools, in elementary schools, I should say, or schools in general, but that was my first time I ever knew this movie even existed, because I remember seeing a book for Space Jam, a movie that I knew nothing about, but it featured two things that were my favorite things at the time. Basketball, of course, Michael Jordan. I still think he's the greatest basketball player of all time, as most people do. And the Looney Tunes. I mean, I watch the Looney Tunes all the time on Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network. I mean, having these two coming together in a movie, that got me so excited. I couldn't wait to see this movie. This was the first movie I ever was really excited for when it came out in November. And I remember when that day came on November 15th, I had to get I had to force my parents to take me to see it that day. And of course, the 7-year-old that I was having the time of my life. I was always looking forward to waiting for it to come on video after school the week it came out. Like, it was a movie that really played a huge legacy in my life. And now that I've grown up, I've realized that, yes, this is not a very good movie. It's a very flawed film. I mean, the plot makes no sense whatsoever. I know the movie is made specifically for kids with some adult humor thrown in there. And these are based on commercials, which I didn't know until well after I saw the movie for the first time. But you still got to come up with a better script than this. I mean, they got to have a thought in the back of their mind to try to write a tolerable script. I mean, you could tell why many of the Warner Brothers veterans that saw this movie were really upset with the portrayal of these characters like Chuck Jones. Like, you get it. Like, Bugs Bunny really does not need Michael Jordan to stop aliens, honestly. And, you know, Porky Pig saying, "Oh, I wet myself," when he sees them for the first time. Like, that's not something they do. That's not them being loony, and I get that. I understand that. And not only that, the new characters they add to the story are not really all that fun. Like, mostly Lola Bunny. I mean, this is a character that doesn't fit, that back then did not fit in with what you'd expect from a Looney Tunes character. There's nothing about her that makes her loony in any sense of the word. She's basically the bombshell of the movie, and right there is the problem. I mean, I shouldn't be looking at a Looney Tunes character and thinking, "Wow, she's sexy," but not only that, she just wasn't written well. She was written like a 1990s female character. Like she had to say these words to be like the strong female character, and like, "Don't call me doll." It's just like that's supposed to make you a character, and it's just like, no, not really. I mean, for a while, that was what she is. I mean, that was basically what she was ended up becoming, and it got so bad that when Joe Dante did Looney Tunes Back in Action a couple years later, he didn't even bother to put her in there because he knew it was a terrible idea. Which I like now. I like nowadays that Lola Bunny has been finally given that loony edge that she should have had before with the Looney Tunes show. Kristen Wiig, I think, did a very good job on that show, and they even brought back Kath Soucie, who does the voice of Lola in these newer Looney Tunes shorts they've been doing recently, and she's been really good. I like in the Looney Tunes show that they changed her personality around from being the bombshell sex pot to a scatterbrained, indecisive, gabby young woman who tends to obsess over bugs. And not only does the changeover work, but it gives Lola a reason to be a part of the Looney Tunes. I think she becomes just as funny as the other characters in that show because of the changes they made here. And I know recently in Space Jam: A New Legacy, they tried to do a mix of both, but it didn't really work out all that well, despite the fact that I thought Zendaya in The New Legacy was actually not that bad. It was just like, they didn't really give her a whole lot to do in there, honestly. They couldn't figure out what direction to go with her in that film. But with all that against the movie, why is this still one of my favorite movies? Well, for one thing, the animation is incredible. For Warner Brothers at the time, this was a pretty impressive attempt to try to compete with Disney, and at that point, they had the animation market locked up at that point. And Space Jam basically allowed WB to try to come up with some competition, but to a terrible failure, as all their movies ended up bombing at the box office. Not because of the movies themselves, actually most of the movies themselves, the only exception being, of course, The Iron Giant, which eventually went on to find its following many years later. Granted, there are animation sequences in this that are pretty lame. The whole stadium at the end is basically just the same 10 characters all over the stadium in the background, and most of them are like chopped up at the same time. Like they take pieces from each of the characters and puts them on like, for example, you'll have the Penguin character who is in the old Bugs Bunny shorts. Like he'll just have his head will be chopped off and it'll be put on like a gorilla or something. It's like stuff like that. It's just like they really did not try in the background here. And if you watch this movie on 4K, it looks even worse nowadays. Like, I don't understand why they didn't just do a meshing of like a real NBA crowd, and a Looney Tunes crowd. I think that would have been something that worked a whole lot better, and that's something they kind of did with Space Jam: A New Legacy, sort of. And so that's some of the many problems in there. Plus, when you know somebody's only doing a movie to take a paycheck, you could definitely see it in their performances. They just don't care what they're doing as long as they're getting the money. Like Shaquille O'Neal did it not only once but twice with Kazam. We already talked about that one, and Steel, which is still coming up. But this is Michael Jordan's only lone acting performance on film, and that's in this movie. And I gotta say, he is very much into the role. He's playing along with this idea that he has to spend the entire film with characters that aren't even there while he's making it. And the worst part is that Jordan never took on another film role after this one. But then again, that was probably for the best. Imagine them forcing a basketball star to take on an acting career while headlining a basketball career as well. And I think you know what I'm going here, LeBron James. But I digress. Space Jam: A New Legacy I thought was pretty good. But like I said before, this movie had a lasting effect on my life. It's a film it was the first movie that I was really excited to see. And like I said, I forced my parents to take me on opening day to see the movie. I even had to tell them I'll learn something from this, which I didn't really learn anything from it. I just wanted to see the movie. I think they understood it too. I mean, yeah, like I said, I can understand the movie has a ton of flaws to it, and a ton of flaws. But at the same time, I still love the movie, and it still has that personal impact in my life. Funny enough, I actually know not one, but two people who worked on this movie. Corey Coleman, of course, from Spill.com and DoubleToasted.com. I've talked to him in the past when he did Spill.com, and he does the shadow on Tweety's Iron Lung near the climax. But not only that, there's a guy that works at Half Pipes Books, where I usually go to, that I do in the Movie Stop episodes, He actually worked on Space Jam. I remember that. Because I had a copy of Space Jam that I was going to purchase, and he told me that he actually worked on the film, and it was just like, I mean, it's very interesting for me that I know not one but two people that actually worked on this movie. And even Corey Coleman himself has basically said that he worked on some of the animation for it, and admits that the movie, it was only made just for a cash grab, and that he worked on the film. Yes, it's a heavily flawed movie, but I still enjoy the hell out of it. It's one of those movies that did inspire me in a number of ways, because it made me tell myself, yeah, there's movies that a lot of people are going to tell you aren't that great, but you found something to enjoy about it, and that's all that should matter to you. I mean, this is probably one of my big guilty pleasure movies, man. I mean, it's not a good movie per se, but I can at least acknowledge that, hey, I still had a very good time with it. And I really like Space Jam: A New Legacy, too. I know a lot of people didn't like that movie, too, but I actually thought that movie did a little bit better than this movie did, sort of. But that's why I still have that movie in my heart. I mean, I've done videos where I've shown that I've got a massive Space Jam collection that still continues to go to this day. Which, if you want to see that, go ahead and take a look at the link at the corner here. But yeah, like I said, Space Jam is not a very good movie, but it's still a very fun movie. It's a movie that holds a special place in my heart, and it's one that I will still continue to love many years later because of what the memories I've had of it almost 30 years after it came out. So yeah, that movie had a lasting impact on my life. So yeah, that's Space Jam. What the hell was that? Space Jam. That's Space Jam. Oh, and I should also mention is I can't before I finish. The soundtrack. I can't forget about the soundtrack. The soundtrack is really incredible. I mean, it's kind of like The Bodyguard. The soundtrack, I think, has the lasting power more than the movie does, so in some ways. Because The Bodyguard is a movie that's not that great, but the soundtrack is amazing. And there's still, I think more people remember the soundtrack more than they do the movie. Like Space Jam. That soundtrack is one of the greatest soundtracks ever. I mean, it just has so many songs on there that you can still listen to after all these years. Most of them are pretty damn good songs, and it's still known as one of the top-selling soundtracks of all time. So that really shows you the longevity that Space Jam has had after all these years. And yeah, like I said, it holds a special place in my heart. So that is Space Jam. So let's go ahead and take a look at one of the other big new releases this weekend. Barbra Streisand's latest film, The Mirror Has Two Faces.
Are we on for Saturday night?
Sure. The rules of modern romance.
Dating. It's like going on an endless job interview.
Let him call you.
Who's on the phone? Be quiet.
I'm sorry.
No, not you, not you.
Always look your best.
Oh, that must look like I was attacked by wolves.
Avoid family encounters.
Shall I bring anything? Something for your mother?
A wooden stake and a crucifix.
And take your time.
Would telling you now that I'd like sex tonight be enough of a warning?
The Mirror Has Two Faces. Rated PG-13. Opens everywhere Friday.
This is the last movie that Barbra Streisand actually directed after The Prince of Tides, 4 years prior to this. Actually, 5 years prior to this. But stars her and Jeff Bridges. Jeff Bridges is this middle-aged professor who enters this platonic relationship with this colleague played by Barbra Streisand. Pierce Brosnan's also in here. George Segal, Mimi Rogers, Brenda Vaccaro, Lauren Bacall. It's written by Richard LaGravenese. And it's an overall decent film. It's nothing incredible. I don't think it's the best work that Streisand has ever done as a director, but it does have its heart in the right place. It is a fun little romantic comedy. It has a lot of good moments in there between Bridges and Streisand. I think their chemistry works very well here. It doesn't do anything unique or incredible to make it kind of stand out on its own. It is an enjoyable film overall. I really had a good time with it when I saw it the first time. It's not one I'd watch over and over again, but I'm glad I saw it for a one-time watch. I really wish I had some more to say about it, but there's really nothing too clever about, much more to deliver in it. I mean, it's a basic love story, but a nicely done love story. It's a good story between Streisand and Bridges. I think they do very well with each other. It's an overall enjoyable film. I really enjoyed it. I don't think it's one of her best movies overall, but I think it is still a very solid film overall. I'd say if you want to see some Streisand's other directorial works, this is definitely one you should check out. It's not the best one, but it's good enough for what it is. So that's The Mirror Has Two Faces. Let's go ahead and take a look at our next movie, and that is the year's Best Picture winner, The English Patient.
Critics agree. The English Patient is the best reviewed movie of the year. Newsweek calls it a stunning success. Time says this is the real thing. Siskel and Ebert give it 2 big thumbs up. The New York Times calls it a fiercely romantic, mesmerizing tour de force. The LA Times says it captivates as only the greatest and most consuming passions can. It's the best film of the year. now playing select theaters.
Yeah, I think Elaine from Seinfeld pretty much sums up my thoughts about The English Patient.
Elaine, you don't like the movie?
I hate it! I'm going to hell!
Maybe hate's a strong word, but I will say this, though. This won Best Picture over Fargo, and I think Fargo was the far superior movie of 1996. I think most people could agree with that. I feel like that movie should have won Best Picture more than this movie did. I feel like this movie got Best Picture because Harvey Weinstein. That's pretty much why it won Best Picture. Sure, it was also the same reason why Shakespeare in Love beat out Saving Private Ryan. Harvey Weinstein. I mean, back then Harvey Weinstein was the one who was getting these movies out there and was doing stuff behind the scenes to get these movies noticed. And the movie isn't bad. It's not a bad movie. It's a fine movie. The big problem I have with it is it's an Oscar bait movie. It's a film that basically takes everything that I hate about Oscar bait cliche riddled films like this and just puts it on screen It's just like, it's not a bad movie. It's a perfectly serviceable film, but there were just so many other better movies released that year in 1996 that should have gotten the more respect than they actually got. I mean, like I said, Fargo should have won Best Picture. That's probably that's the biggest thing I would have taken away from this particular year at the Academy Awards. That Fargo should have won Best Picture. But like I said, it's not a terrible movie. Far from it. I think it is a decently made film. Ralph Fiennes, Juliette Binoche, they're doing a good job in here. Willem Dafoe, Kristen Scott Thomas, Naveen Andrews from Lost, Colin Firth. It's a decent film. Anthony Minghella, I think, does a very good job with the direction on this. It's a solid film. It's not a bad movie, but it's probably one of the worst Best Picture winners, in my opinion. It's a film that really did not deserve to win Best Picture over some of the films that came out that same year, specifically Fargo. But like I said, I don't hate the movie. I get why people like it, but I just can't get over the fact that it does feature those cliche little Oscar baitish type moments in here that just irk me so much about movies that win Best Picture, and they're not as great as they should be. Like I said, I like the movie. I don't love it. I don't think it's one of the best Picture winners ever. I think it might be one of the worst Best Picture winners of all time, in my opinion. So yeah, with that said, on to the last movie. Catherine Zeta-Jones and Sean Pertwee in Blue Juice.
Trimark Home Video brings you to one of the most dangerous breaks on the planet. As the swell rushes in, it sucks up all the water, and if you miss your takeoff, it'll slam you right into the slab.
Excellent. Slab. We call it the boneyard.
JC's been trying to live up to his legend for 10 years.
Hey, Tina! Still the king!
Chloe wants something more. He's afraid of growing old.
Listen to this. Oh, the shit, number 3! Ring the bell. Oh, no, no need.
Who the hell are they?
They're mates from London. Chloe, I grew up with them.
You never grew up.
Storm to pick up. Nothing for a big wave rider like you. Oh, there's a storm coming. Might turn the boneyard off. JC's the only one who's done it. That's why he's a legend.
Now, when he's asked to do the unthinkable,
I'll circle the boneyard. Sold the story to a paper. What, you want me to risk my life so I can only sell a few quid?
What?
Yeah.
I was there, JC, when you told your friends you wouldn't serve the boneyard.
Funny thing is, I used to see the DVD for this all the time, and apparently when they put this out originally, they replaced Sean Pertwee with Ewan McGregor because Ewan McGregor was just in Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, and Catherine Zeta-Jones had already established her name with The Mask of Zorro and Entrapment, and Ewan McGregor does not have a big role in this movie. It's Sean Pertwee who has the bigger role in here, so when they re-released the movie, they actually replaced it again, where Pertwee was on the cover more than Ewan McGregor is, and this is, like I said, it's a DVD cover I used to see all the time. I never saw the movie until later on. Basically, it's pretty much every single story you've seen like this done over and over again. I mean, we've seen the story done so many times. It's not that it's bad, it's just kind of formulaic. It's a really formulaic film that doesn't really have a whole lot going for it, other than the fact that you got Catherine Zeta-Jones in here, and she's wearing skippy lingerie in this, which you can look for that online, honestly. And if anything, you can watch it to see early works by her and also Ewan McGregor, as well as Sean Pertwee. But But yeah, other than that, though, the movie itself is not really all that great. It's a film that has been done to death so many times before. It doesn't do anything new. It doesn't do anything creative. But I guess it's not terrible. I've seen much worse like this, but like it just doesn't really stand out. Honestly, it's a film that just doesn't really have a whole lot there to make it stand out on its own. I think that's its biggest flaw, honestly. So, yeah, I got nothing else for you on that one. That's Blue Juice. So with that said, that wraps up another edition of Time About the Movies. Next time we meet, we'll look at 4 more new movies, including Star Trek First Contact, the first full-on Next Generation movie. We also have Arnold Schwarzenegger in the sometimes infamous but beloved holiday cult classic Jingle All the Way, Jeffrey Rush in the movie Shine, and The More at Home from Emilio Estevez. So 4 movies to look at next time around. We'll delve into those on the next episode. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episodes, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for another episode. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time, and until then, as always, take care.